Hey guys, it's Casey and welcome back to my channel, and also welcome to 11 p.m, which is 2 hours behind the time that I usually start filming because I got stuck at work tonight chasing a rat king out of the clinic. Now, if you do not know what a rat king is, for the love of God, do not Google search it, cherish your sweet innocence, but just know that it is absolutely horrific. And yet somehow, even with that real life cryptid running loose in my clinic, it is still the second most horrific thing that I've seen tonight. The first? LED headlights, because apparently someone looked at normal car headlights and said, you know what would make driving a lot more fun? If everyone was temporarily blind. Because at some point in the last decade, some sadist in a lab coat whose PhD is probably in making life miserable, decided that headlights were not bright enough. Not content with the warm yellowy glow that has illuminated streets everywhere for the last century, they decided to crank up the wattage, slap on a thin veneer of energy efficiency, and lo and behold, the LED headlight was born. I'm not saying that we should find this person, arrest them, have them tried for crimes against humanity, and then force them as a punishment to stare into their own creation for 8 hours a day. But actually, yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because LED headlights aren't just bad, they're not just annoying, they're an active threat to public safety. They're their own little high beam apocalypse wrapped up in a smug little, but they're good for energy efficiency bow. And yet somehow, they're perfectly legal. You know what's so great about the ability to see? Everything. The entire human experience is built around it. It allows us to avoid doing stupid things, such as falling downstairs and walking into traffic, and most relevant to the discussion, driving directly into a ditch. So it's a little bit curious, don't you think, that we've allowed a situation to develop where entire sections of highway are now essentially optical minefields. So you're just driving along, minding your own business, when suddenly, boom, some guy in a jacked up SUV with lights strong enough to signal the International Space Station come barreling towards you down the opposite side of the road. What happens next? Let's examine our options. Number 1, you were temporarily blinded and experience a surge of raw animal panic. 2, you instinctively close one eye like a pirate, trying to preserve at least some vision while swerving into oncoming traffic. 3, you don't technically die, but you do end up blinking frantically for the next 5 minutes while trying to drive half blind, which is exactly as safe as it sounds. See, none of the available options are great. In fact, they're all terrible. What part of this sounds like good vehicle safety? Who exactly was sitting in the Department of Transport meeting and first said, you know what sounds like a really great idea? If every single person on the road got to experience what it feels like to be a deer in headlights. Not only that, but I think that they should have the experience of being a deer in headlights while traveling 100 down a freeway in peak hour traffic.
But they're energy efficient.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that we were in a competition to see how much danger and misery we can endure to save the planet. Yeah, LED headlights might use less energy, but you know what else does? Driving blindfolded, and we haven't legalized that yet. And I get it. You want to live in a world where we reduce carbon emissions and stop climate change and plant trees and sing Kumbaya. But if the cost of environmental progress is that my corneas get permanently burned by searing blue death lasers, then maybe we need to rethink our strategy. The reason why regular headlights work so well. They perfectly illuminate the road without turning every single corner into a horror movie jump scare. They don't make approaching traffic briefly experience the afterlife before swerving back into their own lane in a panic-filled nightmare. But no, somebody just out there decided that wasn't good enough anymore, so now instead of being led home in a warm halo-like glow, we instead get a beam so aggressively white that it's almost indistinguishable from a vengeful god's wrath. Have you ever driven home at night and had your entire soul illuminated by the headlights from the car behind you? I have, because it's cold every single night for the entire 10 years that I've been here. And do not even get me started on trucks and SUVs, not SVUs, though I do feel like a special victim of LED headlights, because as usual, the worst offenders are the ones with absolutely no need for it. Now, let's do some simple math. Let's take a normal car with normal headlights. Because it's normal, driven by normal people, it sits at average height, and as a result of that, its headlights point slightly downward, just as God and Henry Ford intended. Now let's take a SUV. It's taller, and it's bulkier, and it's driven almost exclusively by people who treat stop signs as a suggestion. But most importantly to this conversation, its headlights now sit at direct eye level. That means that all us normal people in our normal cars who don't feel the need to compensate for something instead get to enjoy a full laser-powered eye assault in all its retina-scorching glory. And if you think I'm exaggerating, ask literally anyone who's ever driven a normal car at night. The very second that an SUV equipped with LED headlights appears in your rearview mirror, that's it. You might as well go home because your night is done. You're finished. Just go home because you're like a cockroach who somehow managed to scatter its way into a police spotlight. I hope you didn't enjoy seeing because you won't be doing any more of that anytime in the near future. I know that right this very second, there is some genius out there watching this twisting their glasses and going,
But actually, Casey, brighter headlights makes driving safer.
No, they do not. I mean, they make it safer for you, sure, because of course the guy with a personal sun strapped to the front of his car is going to feel great about his own visibility, but what about literally everybody else on the road? Do you ever see one of those old school interrogation movies where the suspect is sitting, sweating underneath a blinding white light while some grizzled detective slams his hand down on the table and screams, "Talk"? Well, that's kind of what driving a normal car at night feels like now. If we're not criminals, we're just normal people trying to get home safely at night. We shouldn't have to endure CIA-level psychological warfare techniques every time we try to merge onto a highway. The answer is simple. Ban LED headlights immediately. Or, if we're feeling charitable, make them illegal in normal streets. You want to drive around with overpowered LED headlights? Fine. Take your SUV into the wilderness. Take it on the trail. Take it into the deep, blinding nothingness where no one else has to be affected by your stupidity. Go light up the desert. Shine your beams into the void. Nobody cares. But the moment that you roll back into a populated street, you should be legally required to switch back to headlights that don't function like Medusa's glare in light form. Because at the end of the day, this is not about energy efficiency, it's not about technology, and it's not about innovation. It's about basic human decency. And if you can't drive at night without burning everybody else around you to cinders, then maybe you should not be driving at all. Anyway, this is Casey signing off for the night. As always, stay safe out there, stay weird, and criminalize LED headlights today, before it's too late, because my patience, just like my night vision, is starting to wear thin.